Welcome to the San Juan School District Board of Education meeting. Today is February 10th, 2026. It's 3:04 p.m. I'd like to welcome all board members, Ron Nelson, Colleen Benally, myself, and Don Mose, Superintendent Dr. Christine Fitzgerald, and our business administrator, Jacob Swanson, and all other district personnel in attendance today. Thank you all for being here. To begin our meeting, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for 2/10/2026.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes, so we'll go ahead and start with the spotlight report, talking about paraeducator support and the teaching pipeline.
Great, I'm excited to share with you some updated information. We began our work with the Utah Educational Policy Center in supporting our paraprofessionals in 2021, and we've continued that work year after year, where we provided professional development for paraeducators aligned to the paraeducator standards that the state of Utah has. And that work has continued. Last year, we contracted with UEPC to develop a Canvas course so that paraeducators could get on and do the work on modules on Canvas, as well as receiving that support from UEPC, just a little bit of an asynchronous learning module. Currently, that we started that this fall, and we've had 40 paraeducators that are currently registered for that course. 17 have already completed Module 1 and 8 have completed Module 2, and that was as of last month. So it's pretty exciting that they're engaging in multiple methods of learning, one of which is through Canvas. As part of our continuing work, we also wrote for a grant that we received, and that is a professional development grant for Native American paraeducators who have an associate's degree to be able to become an elementary teacher, a special education teacher, or a heritage language teacher. So we did receive that grant, and that work is starting. We have, I believe, 26 openings for elementary and special education teachers and 8 for Navajo language teachers. And even though this doesn't have to do with paraeducators, we do have 10 future administrators, Native American administrators, on the second grant that we received, and we have 8 of those already enrolled in the programming. So it's really exciting in such a short amount of time to be able to getting more people signed up. So we also we're looking at how do we improve really that content learning for paraeducators. When we talk about the paraeducator standards, they're not necessarily aligned to content. So if they're teaching reading intervention, math intervention, so looking at how to improve that through our teaching and learning department. USBE in their last board meeting just approved new paraeducator standards, so we'll be updating with those standards as well. I also attached, just because I was mentioning the grants that we received, the new NYCP grant that we received as well. That narrative is on there, and you can see we'll be bringing more information about all 3 of those grants to you at a later time.
The comment I wanted to make related to that is, it wasn't that long ago we were talking in board meeting about how we could support our paraeducators. Sometimes it's stressful to realize that, you could go work at McDonald's we don't have a McDonald's here, but, they could make more per hour. But the idea that you could be starting in the district and have the support to become as high as an administrator, that's exciting, and I think that can be a motivating factor to get more paraeducators and to help them. We do have limited job opportunities in our county, and if we can keep our people in our county supporting each other in our county, that's a good thing. So it's exciting. And any of you that took the time to read through, what these grants look like, they're very thoughtful and well-directed at serving all in our community, especially the large population of Native Americans that we have. So thank you. Any other comments or questions related to that?
I just had a question. For the Para Tier 1 page, I really that resonated with me because it sets a model for how our where we would like our paras to start out from, and then kind of go from there. And of course, they can customize it a little more to their own. So I just wanted to ask if this, is this what they all receive when they come into the position, or is this kind of the template that we go off of? And
This is just one of the latest things they've been working on to just share out as, you know, a visual of what types of things they're working on. I didn't attach the standards because those were just updated, so I didn't have the latest standards in a shareable form. But this really just kind of shows you one area that they're working on is positive behavior. So how do we help our paraeducators help students have positive behavior? So it really aligns with our other positive behavior work that we're doing in our schools, and this one's specific to training for paraeducators. So that's just one area of standards is this piece. There are multiple paraeducator standards as well that have learning aligned to them. But I just wanted to give you an example of kind of what that work looks like.
well, and I liked it because it does acknowledge the positive behavior immediately, and of course to give praise. And so I thought that was one of the biggest things is, I mean, it makes a difference of, yeah, we could be like, yeah, our reading scores are low, or need to work on this, you know, highlighting all of the stuff that we did need work on, but to have a positive aspect of it and shine that first before that. It's like, okay, we're doing something.
And we have amazing paraeducators. You know, when you think about the school district and developing our staff, we have more paraeducators than we have licensed teachers. So it's really thinking, you know, they're working in these little snippets with students. They're not with them in the same role as a teacher, but they do spend time with our students in a wide range of students. So developing their skills and everywhere from we have new paraeducators just hired recently, but some that have been here, you know, as long as many of our teachers have been here. So I think this is something, you know, that has been very positively received, and we appreciate all of our paraeducators and the work that they do every day in our schools.
Great, thank you.
Well, and I would also like to highlight, having worked with the strategic planning, some of those committees initially, that was a strong thing that was talked about, you know, making sure that every team member in the district is on the same page. It's great that we're already implementing some of those systems, so thank you for that. And sorry we took so long, but we'll move on to the next thing. Invite Dr. Derek Begay and Paul Murdoch to come up and tell us about the School Land Trust final reports.
I'll go ahead and go first since we have the elementaries listed first. If you want to open that, perfect. Does the board have any questions on any of the elementary schools at this time? And then I can go through and summarize if you need me to, or if you want it the other way, I'll summarize and then you can ask questions. What would you like?
I think we'd like you to start first, and then maybe you'll answer our questions before we start bombarding you with them.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, so you can see with the elementary schools, we worked in this template to outline how much money the schools received, and then if there was any carryover, and then if the goals were met. So if, starting with LaSalle Elementary, they had $0 left over, and then the goal was partially met based on the student data and what they're working on there. With Monticello Elementary, there was less than a 10% carryover, and all three of their goals were met. And then with Blanding Elementary, they got a surprise with some funding that they didn't know they had, so they had to do an amendment. So that's why there's 5 goals listed there. I talked with Principal Johnson. In the current plan and plans coming in the future, there will not be 5 goals. There are 2 currently. But there is less than a 10% carryover. In all of their goals, you can see that there's some mixed, yes, they did meet and didn't meet some of those goals, and then some of the reasoning behind that. With Bluff Elementary, you can see less than a 10% carryover. And then looking at the progress, that grades K through 1 met their goal, and grade K did not meet that, so kind of a mix there. With Montezuma Creek Elementary, less than a 10% carryover, and in their goal, they did meet that, specifically targeting first graders. And with TES, we see just shy of a 10% carryover, and looking at their goals, that some did meet and some did not meet their goals, but outlining that data there. Any questions about the elementary schools? And then I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but the reporting system for the state has been on and off frequently this year. So as soon as that is up and consistent, we'll make sure that those are all submitted to the state like they should be.
I did have a question, but it's
Okay.
not just limited to the elementary, so it's kind of a question for both of you, so.
Perfect. We'll
Yeah.
be up here.
Yeah, and just to follow up on Paul's report, we did get an email from the state USBE in that all of our schools stayed within the 10% carryover. So that's a shout out to Paul and superintendent, but also Kayla Bradford, who sends monthly reminders to our schools. So just wanted to acknowledge that we got praise for that. That's been the first time I've been here, so that we kind of met that goal as well too. So just a celebration and kind of highlighting some of that data. With that said, as we'll go through again, Navajo Mountain, they had a goal for meeting 5% growth in all of their areas, and they did meet that goal. So Navajo Mountain met theirs. Monument Valley High School had 2 goals, and they met their first goal, and their second one they did not meet. They were looking at increasing by 100-point Lexile levels. Their 9th and 10th grade, as you can see, were close to that, and their 7th and 8th still needed some help. With that, the principal and Q-tip teachers are looking at how they can remediate that while their students come in from 7th and 8th grade. And we're also looking at transitions with that 6th to 7th grade. So there's plans in working with the elementary to provide that support so that they can meet their goals, not only in this, but just to have better preparation for students making that transition from the elementary to the high school. Whitehorse High School had a goal that they partially met. And again, theirs was to have 90% on track, 95% on track, which is basically making sure that all of their students pass their classes. And so they partially met that. 2 of their classes stayed above the 95% or higher. And the other classes came through. That data does adjust as students recover credit. So they're looking at that and just kind of targeting those students to make sure that they get them back on track. So there's plan in place to kind of meet those needs and to also just identify the students who are falling off track on their graduation status. And then ARL met both of their goals, and again stayed within that 10% carryover. San Juan High School had 1 goal. They partially met that. The 2 that they had was to have a 90% graduation rate, which they were at 89.8, so 0.2% off. And their ACT scores they wanted at 18. They actually surpassed that at having a 19.1 composite. So they did go over that in that part. So almost met it by that 0.2%. And then Monticello High had 3 goals, and again they met 2 of their goals. The goal that they did not meet is goal number 1, and they were wanting to increase their ACT scores as well too to 1 point, and they actually decreased 2 points, and acknowledging kind of what occurred. They did mention in that little notation there that their 24 to 25, that they had an outlier and where their seniors performed very well historically. So rising and keeping that was that they were trying to build and keep that momentum, but that was kind of the issue as to why they couldn't make that additional point. So kind of balanced out to their historical data as well. So that is the summary of the secondary. And then me and Paul can take any questions you have.
Go ahead.
I know I was saying, oh, we're looking at the positive earlier, and that's a good thing. But unfortunately, I saw a bit of the bad side. I thought we have the same goal every year, especially with our reading scores, and we either just miss it or. So my question is, are we doing enough to? And I know that's a loaded question because it's a lot that we're doing already, but I'm a little disheartened at the same time too, because we have the same goal. We want to have the same success rates every single time, but we fall short of it, or, I'm just wondering if it's the same goal, are we doing enough to get to reach it? How can we change it? Is there something else we need to do? Do we need to change our para-eds? Do we need, is there any other methods that we haven't explored yet that can get us over that little hump of that? It's 2%, but it's still a lot. I mean, the finish line's right there, but it's still, for me, I'm just like, what else are we missing more? How much more can we do? And I just see the finish line right there, and especially with our Lexile goals. And I love that the ACTs there's an improvement there, but, you know, at the end of the day, I still would love to reach those reading goals. So that would be my question and that's both for elementary and for secondary too, so.
So the state has a goal, and I think you guys have talked about
Yeah.
that third grade should reach, 70% of third graders should be reading at or above grade level, and that's a state code that they're putting in place. And so our schools do focus on that. As you were talking about when I walked in, like our para training and working to help make our paras more effective. And as we work on developing a district level system for school improvement, I think we're on the right track, but it does take a lot of time to make sure all of those systems are implemented and in place. But we're always kind of in that relentless pursuit of helping our students be readers so they can be successful throughout their life. So is there one thing that we can do? No, but there's a lot of things that we can do right to help meet those goals. And I think we're on the right track to do that.
Okay.
And just to add to that, I think when we look at this, and I think we're being a little bit more intentional as well with some of the transitions we have. So just kind of looking at a vertical alignment between our K-6 schools and 7-12 schools and what that would look like. So actually having meetings with our teachers at both of those school sites to say, hey, what skills are they getting? What are they not getting? Where are the trouble issues or content or specific things that they're learning within a content, and really be targeting that. So I think those conversations are starting now, and I think that's going to help us to kind of identify some of these gaps, and that kind of decrease during the summer or that transition. Again, when they're sixth grade going to seventh grade, they become again like the younger kids in that school, and so they're having to not only deal with that socially, but I think there's reasons and kind of why we're seeing some of that consistency across a lot of our schools with that data to where there's those dips. And so I think what we plan to put in place, and again, we're exploring a position to where we're helping with that transition too in Monument Valley specifically, working with TES and Monument Valley High School. I think those are ways to kind of address some of these concerns, but I think that when we look at all of our data across the board, we are identifying growth, which doesn't necessarily equate to proficiencies, but that's kind of the goals that we're trying to get to. But I think with our marks still being there, it allows all of our teachers and staff to kind of push towards that, and our students to kind of be meeting those goals as well too. So.
Okay, so we're just waiting for one to catch up with the other with the growth and the hope.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Right things.
Yeah.
And if I can just add to that, I really appreciate your comments and your question, because we appreciate a board that's thinking about student achievement like we're discussing it, and within the district with our licensed educators. So we are working on a district-wide school improvement system that will align for each school to look at. So one of the things we've been working on is a resource allocation review to say, are we, based upon the achievement, are the allocations and how we're using those resources balanced and meeting the needs for achievement, which we're having a more in-depth part of that. And then also we're developing a district-wide comprehensive needs assessment so that we don't have to pull in an outside contractor to come in and do our needs assessments. The state's kind of shifted, saying that can be on the district. So we're getting some support in developing our own that it will really fit the needs of San Juan School District. So as we look at some of those needs assessments, still using the University of Virginia, things that we've used for a long time for root cause analysis and really aligning all of our plans, I think you're going to see a more streamlined approach, and we'll be able to bring you a data dashboard to say, it's hard to tell just looking at this one goal, where was our goal 5 years ago? Well, we are making progress, but we just haven't been able to make that a clear system and visible to the board and to our public. So that's our plan over the next year and a half, is really have that be, when we come back with this, you'll be able to see how the plans align,
Right.
what progress we've made, how we've adjusted resources based upon those plans. And it should streamline it for the school as well, so they're not having a TSSA plan, a 90-day plan, and a school land trust plan. Like we're hoping that system will be more seamless. So appreciate that question and those comments, because
Well,
that's the direction we're headed.
And not only that, I would like the transparency of it too, because if I'm asking it, can you imagine what the parents are asking or within the community? And I've already been asked that too, and I'm like, well, let me get back to you on that. And so to have that accountability and to be able to say, this is what we're doing, that's where my questions come in, and making sure that I'm like, what else? This morning, sitting there, I'm like, okay, what other questions could I be asking, in a way that we can make sure that we're, having these improvements and these growths, and, but I get it. Thank you very much.
Well, and I appreciated the comment that you made about working together. You're working with the secondary, you're working with the elementary, but they do intertwine quite a bit. And so making sure that those, sixth graders that are moving into high school and seventh grade in those communities are prepared. Yeah, thank you.
And that was going to be my other thing too. I didn't even think about that, the transitioning from the elementary into secondary grade too. So I was like, okay, well, now that will give me another question next month for you to ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll let you talk about the report cards and explain everything to us. 'Cause
Okay.
you know what's going on.
So the state has released school report cards. Just a reminder that the legislature changed there being any grades on the school report cards. So you can look at the accountability total points, and you can also look at a comparison feature if you want to compare like schools. That's, if you click on the school report cards, you can do that there as well. Just go to the comparison tab, which is really great to see that comparison between like schools, which I think is important when we're thinking about school improvement. We did have some designations. So currently, with our schools, we have 2 schools that started ATSI last year, and that is Albert R. Lyman Middle School and Blanding Elementary School. We have 2 additional schools that have been added to ATSI, and that's Montezuma Creek Elementary School, and that's for students with disabilities, and then Monument Valley High School for students with disabilities. So they have entered that. That is a 3-year process to get out of ATSI. So just know there are additional supports and plans that will be coming in for those 2 schools. And then Sabena Elementary School was designated as Comprehensive School Improvement Low Performance. So that's a whole school-wide school improvement. They were designated as a Title I school with an average over the past 3 years of being below the 5% cut line. So they will receive additional supports from the state of Utah and from the school district as a comprehensive school improvement. The school is aware of that. We've had some meetings with the staff there already. We're working with Principal Amato to continue our work that we've been doing for school improvement this year to carry over into those plans. And then we will be doing a comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis. The plan is due to Utah State Board of Education by June 30th. So we should have that plan developed and approved and ready to go by then. And we can present that plan to the board as well so they can get that input, provide their input as part of the plan as well.
Okay, and tell us about these exiting improvement designations. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. So the celebrations, we are super excited to celebrate. Navajo Mountain just had a small class size, so they aren't in the designations because they didn't have at least 10 students that were tested in those categories. And then we also had Whitehorse High School who exited for students with disabilities so we're super excited for Whitehorse. We did go and celebrate with them just this last month, so that was fun to go, congratulate all of the teachers and students and staff at that school and appreciate their hard work to get out of ATSI. So that's a really great thing to celebrate. So if you are talking to anyone at Whitehorse High School, students, staff, principal, please give them a high five and tell them great work.
Thank you. Any comments or questions related to that?
So Sabena the Sky exited out of
8.
economically disadvantaged, but went back in for whole school.
Yep. So they were above the 5% 3-year average for economically disadvantaged students, but then below the total 5% in overall accountability measures.
And when you say extra support, and you talked about meeting with them, but what else would maybe be the extra support that they must?
So there will be funding available for them. It looks different than how it used to be before. The state managed and said, these are your approved contractors. You can choose one of them. We'll pay for them. Here's additional funding. We have not received yet from the state what that's going to look like. What we were told in our webinar from last week is that they will provide some funding to help us do a CNA and develop the plan to work with a consultant as needed with that. And we are already moving forward with that. And then there will be some additional funding to support them with their plan, implementing their plan. We don't know how much that funding is going to be. I mean, probably I've sent to you some of the proposals of cuts. Some of that money was designated for turnaround. One of the cuts was a one-time cut the USBE was recommending. That hasn't been approved yet, but that could, inhibit some of the money that we've received. Both of our schools last year, ARL and BES, received funding for ATSI to have a consultant come in and do the CNA. They're no longer doing it that way. They found that the CNAs are more likely to meet the local needs if it's done locally. So that's kind of their thinking behind it, is instead of having an outside person come in and do all of those, is saying how does the school district work with maybe consulting on those and doing those internally, so we have better feedback from what the needs of the school actually might be. So I don't have specifics. Once I have more information about those budgets and grants, what that's going to look like. Right now, they haven't designated that there's going to be any, they used to have a leadership training that you could bring the principal and lead teachers to. I haven't heard any updates on if they're going to be continuing that work. So they really, right now, they're giving us the guidelines for what needs to be done and saying there's going to be some money, but I don't have any specifics yet.
Thanks.
But we will move forward regardless. We know how to do school improvement, and we have a long track record of systems being in place, and we'll just continue to improve those and support the school.
And I was going to ask, that's going to go and coincide with what we're already doing with our strategic planning and everything else. So we're kind of already on the ball with that.
Yep.
Okay.
And really, that's our plan, is to have our own system for San Juan School District that will meet the federal guidelines, which then meet the state guidelines. Because the state develops their guidelines based upon the federal guidelines. So if we're in compliance with the federal, then we can do it our way, but ensure that we're in compliance, and then it will work no matter what the state decides to do next.
Thank you. Let's talk about the Indian policy and procedures feedback.
Okay, so we did receive quite a bit of feedback last month, particularly from some of our chapter officials, just about our IPP and recommended changes. I did attend Navajo-Utah Commission meeting today, and there were some additional recommendations that I said I would bring to the board, that feedback to the school board today. So I don't know that all these recommendations, the board needs to consider in the IPP. They could be added. Board member Nielsen probably knows that has been around for a long time with the IPP, so I don't know what's happened in the past, so anything historically that you can recommend or provide information, that would be super helpful. The first thing was this, feeling of the language in the IPP. And so our thought was, we can't change all of that language. Some of it's federal guidelines, some of it's the language that we have to have in there, but we could put at the beginning a statement, and you can see under administrative content, fortunately, we have Dr. Begay, and do you want to come up and just speak to this language for us, Dr. Begay, about a potential way we could just address it? That in the Navajo-Utah Commission meeting today, it was addressed again, that they would like something to be acknowledged with the use of the word, particularly Indian. So go ahead, Dr. Begay.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to read verbatim. I have a little term that or a paragraph here that talks about the terminology, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to do a summary of it. And it says, it is proper to use various terms when we look at terms of Indigenous, Native American, American Indian, Alaska Native. They are used frequently and interchangeably, and that is a product of colonialism as they were as that happened throughout history. And so certain terminology is used in federal and state agencies, and it differs their use in referring to indigenous peoples. So we can't completely eliminate the terms, and it's difficult to, given that they're referenced in treaties, federal and state legislation, and other historically significant documents as far as laws and rules and different things from both federal and state sides. And so I put in there an acknowledgement of those terms and their historical place. And then when I referenced it in my dissertation, I just said I would use the terms that I thought that were more acceptable for the Native communities that I'm a part of and serve and also do research for or work with or collaborate with. And I just kind of acknowledge that. And so I use those terms of Indigenous, Native American, Native, and American Indian interchangeably when I was doing my study. But the preferred notion recently has been using tribal names when applicable. And again, that's not always the case when we're kind of talking about multiple entities. But I created this and used some of that as it is research based with some of the other things being cited from there. So I just shared that as a piece of kind of terminology that we use forward and why it kind of is where it is and why we use some of the terminology, even though some tribes, and I think this was part of the conversation, see it as derogatory, but other tribes do not. And again, just based on the location of where you are in the United States, that could differ. So it's an ongoing conversation, but I think those are kind of why it can't easily be changed, even though we know the sense of maybe it does hold a derogatory term in most places, but again, it's still used in federal guided or state guided documents that we kind of have to abide by because those are the place where it's written. And so that's kind of the feedback that I wanted to give in addition to that. And again, I provided a statement and just kind of think that would kind of help explain why we do use some of those terms and kind of why we're still guided and we still have to use that perception within that language just because of where it is used and how it is used with some of the historical documents in that place. So, and I can answer any questions or anything.
Thank you for sharing that. So from an administrative recommendation, we'd recommend including this language as part of the IPP, and then maybe where it starts with, I acknowledge those terms in their historical place. If Dr. Brigade would be okay, I mean, we would quote him up to that point, and maybe we would put, we acknowledge these terms in their historical place, and then in there as a San Juan School District Board, school board, whatever. So that would be my recommendation, to add language to the IPP to acknowledge, that discomfort, I guess that's not the best word for it, but the concerns about how that language is being used, and it would, I think, be a positive message for our communities, and it would be a good response to the feedback that we received from our tribal leaders, the Navajo Nation tribal leaders. Additionally, the other feedback that was received was that the Tisnopas chapter does have students that attend San Juan School District, and they would like to be added to the IPP as a chapter that can give feedback and receives a chapter visit and gets the same privileges as the other chapters. So
Where was that?
Tisnopas.
That was the last meeting, what?
Because they are not part of the IPP currently. So they're asking to be added to the IPP, just like our other chapters are on there, because they do have students that attend our schools that are part of their chapter. So that would be a recommendation I would make as well. That
I
does.
don't know if they always have, but they may.
Yeah.
presently.
And we can just add that this time
Yep.
without having to do anything extra.
Yep, so if
Just
you
make
look at
sure that
the-
in the future they're
So if you look at the
included.
IPP, anywhere it lists the chapter
chapters.
names, which I can tell you exactly where, but
I saw
the
that.
motion, if you decided to do that, would just be add that chapter in with all of the other chapters. So that would be the
Easy to do.
recommendation. Yeah, pretty simple.
We visit them, at least we have in the past. I think.
Yeah. And then, this was just feedback. I don't know that needs to go in the IPP, but they did ask that we have board members come to the chapter meetings. I know some of you have attended chapter meetings, but that is something they would really like to see, is board members come to the chapter meetings. We have a schedule as part of the IPP that our district administrators attend with a school level administrator, but I think there could be some positive if board members would be willing to at least visit one chapter each year or something. I mean, that would be something that they're asking for, is saying we want to see the board members in that type of setting. So just bringing that feedback.
Is this Tees that's asking that?
Any
or
of the
is this
chapters.
any
All of the
Oh,
chapters.
Yeah. And they're not expecting all of us to come to every chapter. They would just
No.
like more.
They
yeah.
they just want to have more connection with the school board as they work
Yeah.
through things. And it was a very positive meeting today. They are happy with, a number of the things we're doing. They appreciate the communication and the efforts to improve communication. So I think that's, our impact aid hearing, I mean, that was some of the most common, I mean, you can speak to it. Ron, you know better than I do. You've been sitting at these tables longer than I have, but that we received a lot of input, when typically those impact aid hearings, we have had sometimes no input. So I think that's a positive direction, to be able to receive that input and work with our tribal communities. So anyway, that was one of their feedback.
Kind of traveled a path where in my tenure, there was a lot of emotion in the room, a lot of maybe even very tense, and negative emotion in the room years and years ago. And then it kind of evolved to where a lot of changes, a lot of things were changed. It kind of evolved to where there was very little of anything in the room, like you said, very little comments, even little participation. And now we've evolved back to where we had a lot of participation and a lot of comments. And I think for the most part, they were positive or at least negative. They weren't positive or neutral. They weren't negative to the degree. So anyway, I think that's kind of how we've evolved along through this process. But one thing that I would like to bring up before we get too far away from I think there's also been a little bit of confusion. If you go back to our board meeting agenda in 2022 in January, and you look at the document that was approved, it was not the IPP. It was the Native American Policies and Procedures Manual. And if you go look at the document, just pull it up in the agenda, it's been all changed. Almost everywhere where the district does anything, it's Native American, because this issue came up then. It's not new. It came up in my tenure. So somewhere we got a different version of it back in. But be aware now, in my day, it was still problematic in that even in the JOM program, like the IEC committee, Indian Education Committee, there was that word again. And in many of the documents in the JOM program, that word was used. So through the federal programs, it's used quite frequently. But there was effort to, anywhere we could in our district, to not use that word that we were hearing locally was not a good word to use. It just wasn't the best choice. So there is a document that's officially been approved. But back in 2022 is the last year I know that it was approved. I didn't look at 2023. But I'm looking at 2022 right now, and it is not the Indian Education Policies Manual. It's the Native American Policies and Procedures Manual. And then if you look into it, it's in there. So anyway, I just want you, there's a little history there that shows where we've kind of been, and that there is something that was formally approved already that had those changes made.
And I remember when it was either in my first or my second year of mine too, this was brought up exactly that. And I don't know if it was for JOM, and that was also the discussion we had, because Mary Nelson, us, and Lori, we had that same, and that was the question, is whether we could change the federal usage of Indian as opposed to the districts. And it was that same thing was.
I met with that committee on that very topic.
Yeah.
And, we kind of hit a roadblock where we felt like we can do it locally, but it's hard to do it federally. That we weren't getting any participation, really, they weren't giving us any acknowledgement that they were willing to change it. And to be honest with you, as you kind of said, when we went back to Washington and met with all the indigenous tribes, the word is actually seen differently in different parts of the country. So that's why we were trying to make changes, but I don't know federally if they were going to get enough
Support.
enough across the entire country to push to make that change or not.
Well, I do appreciate the suggestion of adding that wording. I think it's just a good way for us to educate them on how we as a district feel about the language. So thank you for providing that.
And then just to give you two more updates, just from feedback that we received, was the HESI committee. We were asked to reach out, and I've already done this, to the HESI committee and to the Department of Diné Education to have a discussion about tribal consultation. A large part of our tribal consultation with Navajo Nation is through the Department of Diné Education, and that's where that really officially occurs. We sign documents. So I think there's some confusion on, what role do our chapter officials and our council delegates play, Navajo Utah Commission, play in that tribal consultation, as well as Department of Diné Education. There's a bit of a disconnect. So I have reached out at that request to both Dodie and the HESI chairman, James. So hopefully we'll hear back and be able to get together with them and be able to have some conversations to continue that. So I think that's a positive conversation. They're recognizing it's not just on us. There's a broader systematic thing that's happening that we need to address. And then the last part was really this communication with parents. And I think we've continued that conversation with our strategic planning. We have a whole pillar that is about our parent engagement and how do we engage our parents in communicating. So I think our strategic planning is a large part of that, and that may come back with recommendations longer term during our strategic planning process to the IPP, and I can bring those at that time. But as for today, my recommendations would be to add that additional language. We can go back and see if we can find a earlier version that has Native American as well, and we can bring that back because you'll have to approve that again. But I think in the meantime, we could approve that language, adding that language on, and then adding Tisnapas. Am I saying that right? Tisnapas. Okay.
Boss.
So yes, you're bringing up some things that I definitely remember and found very kind of challenging. We do have a very interesting situation, and I'm sure Superintendent Fitzgerald, you're trying to navigate this, in that the Navajo Nation, through the Office of Doty, puts out I'm sure they still put out their consultation binder with all the instructions of how every district that works with Native to Nate children should consult with them. And in the end, they are the ones that sign off for us. So that's kind of what you're pointing out, is here we have chapters and chapters officials that in our document we are going to consult with, but in the end, the ones that sign off on our federal impact aid plan is the Office of Doty. It's Office of the Division of Education for the Navajo Nation. So, and we follow their guideline to do that. So it's just really, that's something that was kind of interesting as we navigated those waters, and I'm sure experiencing the same thing is, trying to balance both sides of that and how they fit together even within the Navajo Nation. How does the chapter leaders fit into our consultations with them, fit into the overall manual that we receive from Doty? And anyway, sometimes there's a disconnect. Sometimes it's better than others, but be aware that is an interesting little dilemma that Superintendent Fitzgerald brings up that we navigate. In the end, though, we have to work very closely with the Navajo Nation tribe because they are the official signature if we are to be considered consulting in an appropriate, positive manner.
Well, and I think also just to add to that is having this discussion publicly, the community can see that we're trying to work within the parameters in which we are, but they also have to realize that there is a different part of what we got to do with Doty, as well as, as much as our chapter officials would love to make changes, that's really not their role too, especially if we have Doty within that. They're what we have to follow there. So as much as Red Mesa's chapter president would love for us to change this policy and the wording in it, I think even the fact that us as a district puts a little insert that says, for us as a district, that we acknowledge that we don't like the term Indian, but at the same time, we have to follow within the parameters in which federal guidelines as well as Navajo Nation guidelines under the Department of Education. So,
and I think it also helps us in that we also, as part of our obligations, is altitude to the Ute Mountain Ute tribe and the work that we do with those tribal officials as well. So I think acknowledging their input in this IPP applies to that tribal nation and their sovereignty as well. So I think by adding this statement, it covers, any tribe that we are working with. We don't currently work with San Juan Paiute, officially, but if they did want to be a part of that, they would fall under this IPP if we're receiving impact aid for any of their designated students as well. So I think that's something to acknowledge, is there's more than one tribal government that we're acknowledging and working with for feedback, and I think putting that statement would cover all of that no matter where they stand on language and terminology.
well, and if I remember correctly too, at the national level as well as tribal levels, they wanted to change it from tribe to nation too. So we're also stuck with that because it's under Navajo Nation, not Navajo tribe, if you look at it, the federal guidelines
The
and everything
nation.
too, so.
Yeah.
Derek, you got your work cut out for you.
Well, thank you. I think we've had a good discussion related to that. And appreciate the feedback and also our ability to respond to that feedback, and that you were able to share some of that this morning. So I think we have time to move on to the graduation dates.
So this is just for your information, so you're aware of high school graduation dates, and if you will let Eva know which graduations you plan to attend, so we can ensure that you have a chair available. And then we also the board president works on who will give the acceptance for each of those. So just if you are requesting to do one of those, please reach out to the board president with your request, because I think you know what those are already.
The next one, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just keep going. So this is our proposed calendar. I do want to highlight a couple of things. July 21st is the week of July 24th. We have not needed a July meeting, but we could. We're open to looking at other dates. This was just a date that didn't conflict with any state meetings. That's why it was chosen. We're open to suggestions. It doesn't have to be modified now unless you know right now you have a conflict for that date. We could look at other dates. The other one I just wanted to note was September 8th. It is the day after Labor Day, so if you have any concerns about that date, that might be one we need to address. The rest of the dates are pretty consistent on the second Tuesday of the month as you go through those dates. I did work with the business office with our business administrator and accountant for the budget meeting date of June 15th. So they gave feedback and recommended that date versus a later date, so they can get everything done in time for that June 30th deadline. But am open to feedback and recommendations of any changes to the schedule.
I would also note that October 13th is the day after Indigenous Peoples' Day as well, but I don't know that that would be an issue. And November 10th, obviously, is the day before Veterans Day, but again, I don't know that that would necessarily be an issue. And we've already determined that the 11th is a holiday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion related to that?
I don't foresee anything either. I think there's enough time that we can make adjustments to the calendar if needed, for myself anyways. So I don't,
Yeah, I don't, my calendar doesn't go that far out.
yeah. As much as I would like it to, but no.
And I guess as a note for the budget hearing, that would be in June 15th. We were looking at June 15th or June 22nd, but there is legislation before it said that the tax rates, I believe, if I'm remembering which one came first, the tax rates had to be certified on or before June 22nd, but there is current legislation that says that it would have to be before June 22nd. And so if we held the budget meeting on June 22nd, if that legislation were to pass, then we would be out of compliance with getting our tax rates certified.
Okay. And having the September 8th one, that's not an issue with district staff being off the day before necessarily. Okay. Good to know. All right. We have just a few minutes.
Okay, I will just keep going forward if you're good.
Dr. Fitzgerald, I had a question about graduation dates. I didn't see Bluff Elementary's promotion on there. Have we not knocked down a date yet?
Not yet. My fifth grade teacher and I are still looking.
Okay.
And we'll share that with you as soon as we have everything on
Okay.
there.
Just making sure that there's no typo or anything.
It's convenient having Barbara here. All right, so strategic planning. So we have there's two pieces here. One is the first link, you can see is just kind of giving an overview of looking at our strategic plan aligned with our San Juan Quest model and how they overlap. So this is more of kind of the vision and explanation, as well as the initiatives and kind of what they mean. So that's just a give you the broader context. If you look at the second document, this is the actual language that we would like to have approved by the board. We are working on putting together the collateral, which would align the San Juan Quest model with our strategic plan, our two pillars, and the language that's in each pillar, as well as those initiatives. And then the board next month, we'd like to bring that collateral next month for the board to approve the entire collateral and the language that's on the collateral, or give feedback and then approve. But today, what we're asking for is it's much easier before we create the collateral to make sure the language is board approved for the 2 pillars, the initiative, and the language underneath the pillar. So if you look at that second document, that's what, if you have feedback, we would like to have, so that could be approved as an action item today. This is not the first time you've seen this, different versions of this, multiple times, different iterations, but happy and welcome to take any feedback of any language changes that you feel like are needed.
Explain to us what that means, the collateral aspect of it.
So collateral is the physical, visual, digital, beautiful piece that will come out that we will use to communicate and use for PR. So that's a multi-page document. It will have kind of the process for the strategic plan of how it was developed, how much input, and how we went about that. It will also have the board members, kind of like we do on our board brief with your pictures. So there'll be a section that has the board members' pictures and that you approved this plan and participated in the development of this plan. It will also have a short message from the superintendent on there as well. It will have pictures of our schools and communities and students as part of that. It will, again, align with our San Juan Quest model, because that's really a part of the strategic plan of what we already have. So we're kind of even like the colors and what we already have put together to show the diversity and the, our beautiful community that we live in is all. We've been working with the designers, and I have to give credit to Eva because she's the designer on our team. So she's been helping quite a bit with questions like hex colors, I think is what it was called. I didn't even know what that was. So anyway, so that's what the collateral will be, is that beautiful piece we'll bring to you next month. So you can say, oh, I like this, or I want you to tweak this wording. And it will have our mission, vision, and values and all of that as part of that to come to the board for final approval. This is just saying we'd like to approve the language so we don't have to edit that again, because they will already be developing that as part of it.
Didn't we get a preview of that before, like, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, you've heard about the
Kind of
strategic plan for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of an idea of what that could
Yeah.
visually look
Yeah.
like, but it's not, yeah.
And the company that Education Elements helped us with our plan, but they do a lot of strategic planning across the country. And so they have given us quite a few samples, and we've pulled from those samples that they've done with other districts. There's some really great work out of, I think, Virginia, Fairfax, Virginia, and then Alaska, a school district in Alaska. So we pulled the elements out that we really liked from, they gave us multiple samples of what they've done with other districts, and then we've kind of pulled it together to really match our San Juan Quest model and what really, we want it to be unique to San Juan because we are unique, and our students are unique, but also kind of looking at what would be in there to communicate to the public. But it's really our PR piece is what that is.
And where will that go?
So that will be shared in our communication with parents. That could be printed out as to actually give out. We'll have a longer version and then a shorter version like we've done with the San Juan Quest model in the past. But it's really how we communicate the strategic plan. There will also be an implementation plan, which we will work on, district-wide. And that's what the tool we'll be using to update the board as we make progress, and the community and public as well. So that looks a little bit different. This is really that big public relations piece to really say, here we are in all of our beauty in San Juan and our beautiful students and
This
the
is
things that
our,
we're doing.
yeah, direction.
And saying this is the
Yeah.
direction we're going. So it's kind of that big rock that we share out with everybody, and then, that can change over time.
So there could be like a binder in each school or something like that? maybe?
It's really about a 4 or 5 page document. It will go on the district
Okay.
website. It will go on the school websites. And again, it can be printed. We asked them to do a digital version that could be sent out digitally. And then we also asked them to do a version that could be printed and given out as well. So.
Would it be strategic or positive to do things like have a table at back-to-school nights?
Oh,
to
yeah.
Have a community meeting? I know your attendance at community meetings can be sometimes less than desired, but anyway, all of those ideas
Mm-hmm.
of possibly trying to make sure that we are getting it out and making our public aware of that the plan is here, it's been developed, and any support and help is going to be great.
Yeah, there definitely will be a PR plan as part of the strategic plan push. The last thing we want is to have invested all of this input and all this work for it to sit on a link on the
Yeah.
website. I would say on the shelf, but we're past that era where it sits on a link on the district website and nothing ever is spoken of it again. But yes, there will be I think as we've met with them and done some planning with our implementation teams, it's saying there's that initial push out to say, here's our big strategic plan, and it will adapt over time. And then we look at implementation and how do we keep that conversation ongoing and active, that it's not a, here's our big push, this summer, this fall, and then we don't talk about it anymore. It's ongoing push. So this is the first initial collateral piece that will really introduce the plan and be very visible to the community, and we'll do that in a variety of ways. So appreciate that input as well.
Well, and I think one of the biggest things that we learned at our leadership conference and as well as USBA this year was to have a theme or to have a statement or something, and that helps me because I'm like, oh yeah, this year was the rock theme, and then the years previous before that too. So that I thought, okay, well that I can place what year and whatever it was implemented in that with that. So that was the first thing I thought of when you said, oh, okay, cool. Well, we have the marketing for it, so I mean that will definitely help. My brain is mush right now currently, but that'll improve eventually. But at least I can refer back to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've had a lot of good discussion about that, and I hope that people will take the time to look at this. As, again, we have seen it before, but, you tweak the language, and so it's just good for us to be on board with, because really this should be led by the board, and we provide the vision, and you guys make it happen, so we should be paying attention to that, so thank you. I think we'll go ahead and move on to our presentations. And with that, we have Barbara Silversmith with Bluff Elementary, so you're welcome to come on up. We're excited to hear from you and share your good news.
Gonna have my water
Challenges.
with me. Okay, lit up. Well, Yat A and hello. I'm thankful for this opportunity to share about my school. So if you notice the presentation, there's a lot about celebrations, and so that's kind of what I wanted to do for this presentation, is just share with you a lot of great things that have been happening since I've been at Bluff Elementary, and the wonderful staff that I have to do that with. And it seems like just within the last 5 years, 6 years that we've had kind of consistent staff there. And there's much to be said about having staff there that are consistent and working together as a team. You eventually become a team and you work together, so there's a lot to be said about that. I want to go over just the celebrations, unless you specifically have any questions that you're
Start with
dying
the
to ask me.
celebrations and we'll, yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the celebrations we have, it just kind of reiterates that with the progress that we're making, and we use a lot of that pathway progress of Acadience, and that indicates that, yeah, our kids are making typical and above progress, and a majority of our kids are doing that. And of course, there's other indication of our progress, but the 90-day goals that we set are targeted on that, and then also some of the individual goals that the teachers set for themselves on their own individual goals that they set in the Observer tab are based on that. And so we focus a lot on that. And so it just kind of reiterates that we are really making that progress, because we got a letter from the state office indicating and giving us a celebration of the progress that we're making in kindergarten and in third grade right here. And it has certificates that they've sent us and shared that with our school, and we always have celebrations of those things. So, and it is great to be recognized by the state for that. But if you see our progress as far as just currently where we're at, currently we do have a reading goal of being able to have 70% of our students be at typical or above, and the state reading goal is 60%, but we wanted to increase it to 70%. And if you notice the the graph that I shared with you, this is the middle of the year data, current data that we collected, and reading, our reading goals as far as each grade level. You know, we've got three grades that are have already met that, and some of the ones are still on their way. And we believe that all of our grades will make it. And then in math, we've got a high percentage in math. I think that this, as far as math, we this year have piloted a program called Desmos and K2 and STEM Scope in third, fourth, and fifth. And it brings out a lot of critical thinking with those two programs. And so our students and our teachers have struggled a little bit in implementing that, but we're now halfway through the year, and I think they've done a tremendous job with that. And I love going into the classrooms and seeing that critical thinking, the kids demonstrating that and being able to work more in teams and exploring. There's a lot of exploration with those programs, and so as you see, I feel like it really has contributed to our middle of the year math scores just with that Acadience. So that's another celebration there that I wanted to share with you. Some other celebrations are, if you go to, let's see which slide, just that celebration of school safety, that one. And we want to celebrate school safety just because we've been doing this for really making it a high priority within the last few years on ensuring that our students all know what to do with these specific drills that we have put in place to practice. And we do at least 2 to 3 drills a month, sometimes a little more. And the students always come up to me and say, Mrs. Silversmith, when's our next drill? You know, and so that they're well aware of what they need to do. And it's great because we have created a plan. However, my staff, we all come together as a team after we do have a drill, and we debrief and figure out, oh, this came up or this came up. Okay, now we need to refine that area, or we didn't think about this. And so our plan is consistently being refined, and we're consistently, different things keep coming up, and so which is a good thing, because the more you practice, the more you can conquer all those things and figure out how to make it better, so that the teachers are ready, the students are ready, and on a signal given, they know exactly what to do. And so that's a huge celebration for our school. And then we do have a partnership between the school and the home. I've shared our plans and what we do at the school community council. We've put this information for parents on our school newsletter on a monthly basis, and we've shared a lot of these safety plans and protocols that we do at back to school night or other events that we have with parents. So that's another celebration. And then the other is just attendance. I know in the past I said, oh yeah, that's a challenge. So we've taken that challenge. We said, okay, how can we increase our attendance? And we've done some things within the last few years, a little bit at a time. And I feel like just within last year and this year, it really has greatly improved. And I've given you some data to indicate that we've had over 90% average each quarter last year, and then this year even, and even with the sickness that's going on. So some of the things that, and so we've gotten aggressive in what we do. And so we said, okay, what are some things we can do to really help the students understand and feel the importance of it, as well as the families, you know, the parents. And so some of the fun things that we do, of course, is, you know, we've created a logo of attendance matters all day, every day, and we've collaborated with ARL and San Juan High, and so we all have the same motto because the kids are going to be coming up to these schools. And then we've created a sweatshirt that has that on there. And so the kids wear that on Fridays. And we have, another thing we've done is we've created that perfect attendance tracker, which is, we have a mystery party every 15 days, and the kids really track this themselves. It's a card that they have, and they track their own attendance. When they're there, they mark it, and they can see their own attendance. And so if they attend the 15 days in a row, then they attend the mystery party. They don't know what the party's about because it's a mystery. Not until they walk into that cafeteria do they know what we're going to do. So they're excited about that. There's just a lot of stuff that we put in place, and I've even shared that one about the eagle in the nest in the past. I mean, they're still excited about that, and we do have an attendance flow chart that we share with parents all the time at different events that we have. I put it on the school newsletter. I share it with SEC members as far as what do we do on day one when a child is not at school and the parent doesn't call in, no one calls in. What do we do? What do we do on day 2 and day 3? And so there's just a lot of things we do to focus on that, and then mailing home reports, I think, has made a huge difference as well. Every month we mail home the attendance reports, and it's for all kids. It's not just those that are having attendance issues. We mail it home to all parents, and we put positive stamps on those students that are doing really well. Keep up the great work. You're doing awesome. And we mail that home to parents, and they see that. And the students that struggle, I put a little note on there indicating what the struggles are, and inviting them to come and chat with me or the teacher. And so we've done that, and that really has greatly improved as well. So our attendance really has improved because I feel like we've gotten aggressive and we're doing various things that are positive, that help the students and get excited, and also the families. And I think the families now know that Bluff is about 100% attendance, because we do have some families that transfer from, the kids that transfer from here, from Blanding down south. And so the parents, when they register their kids, they say, they mention that. They said, oh, some of the families around here indicated that you really focus on attendance. And we said, yep, we do. Let me tell you about it. So it's great that way, and that is our focus. The other celebration I want to do is, will you show that staff? I sent you a picture of Bluff staff. You can show that, and then after that we can talk about, if you want to know about the challenge, we can talk about that. But the other thing I want to celebrate is just my staff. I have a picture of them. I want to put that up. But I want to celebrate them because I have an extraordinary staff. They're amazing. I have worked with them. I've collaborated with them. They're team players. We come together always, and we talk about the things that we're concerned about with students or with families or even just with each other. And we talk about those things, and we problem solve, and we come up with solutions, and we're able to work together. I've never worked with amazing staff than I do have now, and even the support staff. And so I want to celebrate my staff for the amazing job that they're doing. Some of them are planning on leaving, and so I just want to be able to say that I've had an amazing ride with them. So I just wanted to celebrate that. Thank you. that's what I have for my celebrations, unless you want to hear about my challenge.
You can tell us a little bit about your challenge.
Well, the challenge is, and this is throughout my career, is just really fostering a genuine love and enjoyment of reading at home. Just has been a struggle. I feel like we're in partnership with the families at home, because there's many things that the teachers do to help as far as fostering the love of reading and an enjoyment where they actually say, I want to read more. I love reading. Read to me. And really fostering that, because we feel like there just needs to be more done in that area. And sometimes when students aren't reading at home, it just creates a significant barrier for them in increasing their vocabulary or increasing their just their critical thinking and increasing maybe self-confidence or increasing long-term academic and career opportunities. And so that's why that's been a real struggle for us to be able to help instill that in our students. There are some students that are like that, yes, and it's awesome to see that. But we would love to instill that in all of our students, and I think it's an ongoing mission. It's an ongoing work. So, and I hope that the parents feel like we're in partnership with that. So that's a challenge still.
Thank you. And I like that it's a challenge, but not when you think of it as a challenge, as in we're going to challenge ourselves to be our best. We're going to challenge ourselves to learn to love to read. And I had a daughter who really struggled with that in her early years. And when she discovered a love of reading instead of the chore of reading, she has experienced a lot more joy in her life from that than the initial struggle, which once we overcame the fact that, you know, it can be hard. It can be a struggle to work through those words and those codes and those, you know, all of the stuff with that. But when you truly love to learn and to read and to discover new things, it removes a lot of barriers.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that to our attention and for all the celebrations. It's good to see the good that's going on in our district and especially at your school. So any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just won't let you sit down until I just personally say thank you, Barbara. I'm very familiar with your career. I'm very familiar with the amount of professionalism and just hard work and focus you've put into that school. I know it takes a team, so I also thank your team, but I know that it also takes a great leader. And it's amazing what's happening there. It's a real tribute to you and your team, but in the end, children are benefiting. That's who's benefiting from all this. Is you've put some very, very specific, very explicit looks into detail and in so many different areas. And so thank you. I really appreciate, I know the work you do. I appreciate it all, and I thank you and your team for it.
Yes, thank you, Ron.
I have to agree with that, too.
Oh,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
just want to add that, yes, it's to see you acknowledge your staff and to see your emotions conveys to me, not only me, I'm sure to everybody else, the love and the care that you have for your community and your students. And I'd just like to commend you on that as well.
Thank you.
And just to go off of Ron and Dawn here, I'm probably going to be the most critical because it's my area of where I'm from. And And the improvement with the attendance, I really appreciate that because I know that was one of the things that we had worked hard to get to where we're at. So I love that that's what we're celebrating with the 90% looking at the data there. And I just have to tell you this, I have a kindergartner who knows me in the community, and I happened to be in her home one day, and she was like, we need to talk. And I was like, oh, great, here we go. You're not a voter, but I know you're going to bring me a problem. and I said, okay, well, let's hear it. She's like, I'm a student at Bluff. You know I'm a student at Bluff. And one of the big problems that we are having is nobody's reading at home. What are you doing that we can fix it? I was like, okay, kindergarten, let's calm down. You know, I'm doing everything I can. You know, I work with the administration, the principal. You know, we do have meetings on these things. And for her at that age to know, so, you know, that's a compliment to your staff too, to let them, students know that this is a real issue and that if it's coming from the top all the way down and that it needs to be taught in home where the students like, hey, you know, mom and dad, we need to read more. We need to fix this. This is where the disconnect is. And then to be able to speak to me about it, I mean, that's a testament to the school, to you, the teachers, and then as well to the students. Because, man, I felt like I was a spotlight and I was sweating to hear what her problem was there, that, you know, not in a school setting, not in a setting in which, I mean, I'm in my t-shirt and sweats and hair in a bun, so it's not something that I was prepared for professionally. And so to hear that, I, you know, that definitely made me think about, okay, well, you know, we need to make sure we're taking care of this. And so to see it as a challenge, and like Nan said, a challenge to yourself and a challenge to the parent to be like, hey, we can improve on these things, and that being that improvement that we can do. I mean, I will definitely go through that horrendous process again for her to question me, and hopefully she does at the end of the year, and hopefully I'm able to tell her, you know, we did make a progress in those reading improvements, because that's something we need to. And if you heard earlier, we do have a strategic plan. We do have plans that are going through that. And so it would just be up to the parents to hold on their end as well with the students and work with us. So I appreciate that this is a challenge, because I agree we need to make those improvements on that. So just know your kindergarten is
Out there telling you.
they're on it too. So
Good.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
Thanks, Barbara.
All right. The next one is CTE, Career and Technical Education. Welcome, Gina.
Thanks.
And JJ.
I
Yay.
want to also think that one of Barbara's celebrations should be all of her students that do the public performances.
Oh yeah.
At the games at Sound One High, they have just been phenomenal. So they're awesome students. Do you want me to go through this or just answer questions?
Let's
How'd you
highlight
want?
your celebrations and then anything else you want to kind of draw attention to, and then yeah, we'll ask you some questions.
So probably our biggest, most recent celebration is the Catalyst Grant recipient. So we'll receive just like $440,000 to rebuild and hopefully grow the electromechanical program that was at Whitehorse High School. So that's going to be a big lift, but we're excited for that kind of a challenge to take on. We'll give it our very best efforts. We're really excited. That program was such a great asset to the community, and the industry partners there have been wanting that back. So we're excited to be able to tackle that work. We also just received a Perkins grant for some CNC machines in our welding programs. They've not been able to teach some of the strands and standards that deal with the CNC machine. So we have 3 new CNC machines coming to our schools. So that is really exciting.
Which schools do the welding?
So we'll replace a machine at Whitehorse High School, and there's one going, or at Monticello High School, and then one going to Whitehorse, and then Monument Valley.
Okay. And how many schools have welding
There's-
programs?
There is welding now with Craig everywhere. So at all of our
all of our secondary schools, because ARL has also, so.
Oh, great, thank you. Sorry, I put you on the
Nope,
spot
that's-
there, but
that's fine.
it came to my mind right then, so.
That's great, and it's something that our students just love and
Yeah.
thrive, and they're very involved in it. So we're very happy that it's able to be in all of our schools. The NYCP grant, we're very excited for work-based learning support and building out some industry relationships and more internship opportunities. We have had an increase in concurrent enrollment classes, specifically in CTE areas. We just had an instructor at San Juan High approved to offer concurrent enrollment entrepreneurship. So the list is growing, and we're very excited for those opportunities. They also impact our Perkins indicators and can impact school grades and report cards, so we're excited about that. We had national CTSO competitors and a champion this year, and we're looking forward to more this coming summer. We loved having our CTSO, a career and technical education focus at the Heritage Language Conference. We loved going there and participating with those students and teacher leaders, so that was, we love when it's our turn to be able to participate with our heritage language departments. We have a CTE Presidential Scholar, and we'll talk probably more about that later this afternoon, but that's a huge accomplishment from our district. And it's CTE month, so we love February and all the craziness that it brings, and it is really crazy, but it's in all the really great ways. And this number is not accurate. We had a few no-shows yesterday, but we had our annual CTSO competition yesterday, and it was also a big ball of crazy, crazy goodness. So those are our celebrations, and thank you for those that were able to be there and support that.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation to that. We like getting a heads up when these
We'll
kinds of
invite
things
you
are
in.
happening.
We'll invite you
Yeah.
anytime. Yes.
Anything else you wanted to highlight in there?
Will you just highlight the durable skills? I think that's a newer terminology, and so the board is aware of that.
Absolutely. Last year, the National ACTE, I can't even think what we are, association, the Association for Career and Technical Education revamped all of the career clusters, and in so doing looked also at durable skills. So you've probably heard the term soft skills or transferable skills. They really looked at that and said, these are not soft skills. These are the skills. There's nothing soft about them. They are what our students need. That's what's going to carry them no matter what their occupation is. So they really looked hard at those the terminology for those soft skills, and nationwide there is a push to now call those durable skills. And Utah has completely embraced the new terminology. Utah is really a forerunner in current technical education. A lot of other states look at what Utah is doing. I really commend the work that happens at the USB office in the CTE world. But they have, last year they created a strategic plan for Utah career and technical education, and one of the pillars centers around this durable skills framework. And so we have brought that work at the state office back to our teachers, and our teachers are working on that and embracing that. It's really a joint effort. USBE specialists will send emails every month. Every month they're focusing on a different durable skill, and they help teachers learn how to incorporate that into work that they're doing already in the classroom and bring that to the forefront of what's happening in the classrooms. So we have posters in our current technical education classrooms that really highlight these durable skills. And in our fall work meeting, all of our teachers set a durable skills goal. So it's a district-wide goal to work on them, but they are very individual goals for each instructor in a current technical education course. But they are really focusing and working on those this year, knowing that those are the skills our students will need to carry them out of high school. Thank you.
Challenges?
There's always challenges. Do you mind going down to that slide? Program advisory committees. This is part of program approval for career and technical education. Our schools have been having advisory committees. They have not been as effective as they could be. And so when we met with our teachers this spring, they've come up with some new ideas on how to revamp those advisory committee meetings and make them more effective, because they really should be the catalyst for our students and working with industry and developing those partnerships. So they collectively, they have come to the conclusion that we, instead of in the past, each school had an advisory committee meeting, and it covered all the content areas in CTE in their school. And so it was a little bit disjointed because each program had different needs and was doing different things. So the movement is going to be to have a district-wide advisory committee meeting for each cluster, and have those meetings in conjunction with our fall workday, and invite all of their program advisory committee members to meet with them. There's also going to be more student involvement. In the past, there hasn't been student or parent committee members, but that is something they've looked at. They've looked at having more higher education partnerships on those advisory committees. So that is a big work that we have ahead of us. We just want to move from non-effective to having them be a real effective support for current technical education in our district. The second challenge is pathway tracking. It is very difficult to track concentrators, to get them, make sure that we're working with them to make sure that they hit the completer status, or even making sure that we have students who are taking CTE classes, but they're hitting that right concentrator course to be able to be tracked in UTREX as being concentrators. JJ has worked extremely hard, and he's one of the biggest reasons that we've hit those goals that were mentioned earlier in the slides. But that is something that we continue to really wrestle with, the best way to track it. There's not an easy way to pull data. Jonathan, bless his heart, he's really worked with us too, trying to figure out the best way to make sure that we're tracking the information that we have to help our students in the best way possible. And consistent Perkins data is hard. We had our data come out at the end of January, and there were some really strange anomalies with science, math, and language arts that we've got to figure out. So, and there just are weird things with our Perkins data, and we've come up against these battles every year. So we're just working on trying to figure out how to really make sure that we have clean data to look at.
Are some of the things with the state, the goalposts change quite a bit? Is that part of why it's hard to track?
That's part of why
that?
it's hard to always meet our targets, is because
Okay.
they do change every year. They change targets, but the tracking is part of it. Has to do with that every school uses a different
Yes.
student information system, and so they're getting different data. Aspire has some limitations as to what can be pulled, reports that can be pulled from it. We've tried a lot of things. JJ set up some intense tracking spreadsheets. Some teachers are really good at helping us with those. There's just a lot. I think that at Utah, I think USBE is aware, like in all of our directors' meetings and in JJ's coordinators' meetings, this is something that we bring up continually, and they always say, we're working on it, but we don't have it yet.
Okay, but you're doing your part to try to make it work in spite of that, it sounds like.
Definitely, yes.
So JJ's sitting behind you. Do you want to share any of your celebrations or challenges since you're here?
I don't like to talk in a mic, but I just want to thank you as a board and also our district staff in helping us overcome the little challenges that we come up against. It seems like we have a lot of fires that come up regularly, and we work as a team and we get through it. So it's a team effort.
I have a question for your team effort. Have you guys explored whether, because we have some students that love to code or love to work with data, and is there a way that we could have part of the CTE program where the student helps you figure out how to track this data? Or, I mean, is that something that
It's definitely something we could explore, like an
Haven't thought
internship.
about it, but it's
Yeah.
a great
That's
idea.
a great idea. Like we've had some internships where we've had, like even in our department, we had an intern last year, and that was awesome. It really helped. And so we have a good group of potential interns for next year, as some data has come out. And so that's definitely something we could look at is having more interns help us with tackling the challenges we have.
Because from what I understand, you're gonna move away from school advisory committees, but members from each school with that that could be something that they could bring forth with their, whether they use Aspire or anything else. Because I know, like, Jonathan's brain's a little different than my brain, and so, probably a lot better than mine, but, just that thought process and that thinking, that critical thinking that they can do. I mean, I know some students, like, I have a son, he's more on the coding part of things, and so that technical part of the brain, I mean, we could take advantage of that and also have them explore that part of their, skill sets that here within that
Absolutely.
too,
That's a
so.
great idea.
All right.
Just a suggestion.
No, I love it. We welcome those kinds of suggestions.
Highlight for us a little bit of the yesterday, stuff that went on yesterday.
Yes, please.
Just a couple highlights.
The students' faces when they walk out of a competition and feel like they just nailed it, that they did everything they could to their best of the abilities. The students who maybe didn't prepare as well, but walked out of there knowing that next time maybe they need to learn from that and do a little bit better the next time, that sometimes it's all right to put some work into and make an effort into the things that they're doing. Our collaboration with USU, we have worked really hard the last few years to develop that collaboration, and they were very supportive in everything they did. There were a few frustrations at the beginning of the day, but in the end, when you see the students and the work that they do and the enjoyment they get from it and the skills that they're building, I think it's all worth it. Some middle school students were presenting on their photography entry, and we're talking to judges, and when we talk to the judges, we ask them to really focus on the personal element of their interview, that their technical skills might not be the best that they were, but for our students to learn to communicate and convey their ideas and advocate for themselves was one of the most important things they could do while they were there. So for sure, student growth.
Yeah, just, two things that I really am excited about every year, when they get off the bus and that look of I'm super scared, but super excited to be here. That's always really fun to see. But then we've done this for 5 years. This is our 5th year doing this event. And some of our students have been doing it for a number of years. And to see their growth, just thinking about some of our public speakers or job interview students that have done it a number of times, and it's an intense competition for some of those events, and the growth is amazing.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have a student who participated yesterday, and he did really well.
He did
But
awesome.
just like you said, though, to see the growth of these students through the years participating in these type of programs is wonderful. Please keep it up. Our center is going to be done soon in Monument Valley, so I look to
We're very
more
excited about that.
collaborations with your office. So.
Yes.
I enjoyed it a lot yesterday. What I see across the district with our programs is amazing. So our students, I don't think they've ever had a better opportunity to participate in these type of programs. So thank you so much. And I do have to repent because I got away with one of your highlighters, so I need to return this.
You can probably keep it. It's
You
all
can
right.
keep up for your extra time because you're at your event so
Felt
early.
bad all night,
Thank you.
but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, back to the agenda. We were gonna look at enrollment, I know.
Yeah, so this is an interesting discussion, is getting out the crystal ball to project what's going to happen in the future. These are really difficult numbers, and I will say, you can see I made an error on what's posted on there and attached a new document that you have access to. So, and I also gave you a printed copy. It was too late to attach it officially to the board agenda, but wanted you to just have the correct numbers as best as they can be. So I think the purpose of this was really just to promote transparency and community awareness and board awareness, that we are having a decline in enrollment, and we expect for that decline to, continue over the next 5 years. That will impact, our FTEs. So thinking about teachers, teachers are assigned per classroom enrollment based upon the board allocations for class size in each of our 2 regions, and elementary to secondary. So I think it's, while these aren't guaranteed numbers, these are just the best guess that we can have. We used feeder numbers from schools that are elementary level. So if those cohorts of student continue at the same number that they are, that's where those projections come from. We also looked at the typical number of students coming from Aneth, from Natsasan Community School, going into Navajo Mountain, and then of course that with Bluff, majority of those students do end up at ARL and then at San Juan High, although we do have a small percentage that go to Whitehorse. So that's all been factored in these numbers. And then with kindergarten, we don't know for kindergarten what our enrollment may be, so I just used current enrollment numbers for kindergarten for each of the years moving forward. I did think it was interesting when I pulled the health department birth rates to kind of see, we are seeing that decline in birth rate. We had that little post-COVID spike, everybody being socially isolated maybe. We had more births in 2021 than we'd had since 2018. But we do see a declining birth rate, which this doesn't indicate. We have many students that come to our schools that live in San Juan County that are not born in San Juan County or have a birth certificate issued in San Juan County. But what this does show is a declining trend in births, and I think that's really what I wanted to highlight for the board, is to see that there is this declining trend. We can always hope that we'll have economic growth that could bring in more families. Jacob's doing his part. I, have recruited my grandchildren to come here, so we're trying to
Colleen is also
boost.
doing her part.
Colleen's doing her part, hopefully soon, the next week or so, right? So we are doing our best as that we can, but I just wanted to make sure this was transparent. This is something I'll also share with principals and principals meeting. These are not guaranteed numbers, but I do think it shows what we are expecting from the reports that we received on the state level as well. So this aligns with those trends as well.
Thank you. It's just good for us to be aware, and also, like you said, we do our part, and as board members, I try to encourage parents to, you want to get your kids in the CTE program, but if you want that CTE program to keep thriving, you've got to put your elementary kids in the elementary school. You've got to let your kid go to public school. That is the way we get these programs. And if you're choosing to homeschool or to charter school or whatever, it limits what we can do here. So please be aware that we need your students, and we can do great things in our district when the students are there. Yeah.
I was intrigued by, you had the one here on the back, I think, that showed the birth rate. And that was my question is where are our students going? Is it just a matter of we are having less children in the county, or are they choosing other options?
It's mostly the birth rate.
But it does appear like it's mostly the birth rate.
Yeah, if you look at the kindergarten, when we look at our October 1 numbers, that decline in kindergarten enrollment has significantly impacted our schools. And you've seen some lower cohorts come in. We have one grade level that, at one school, it's 88 students in one grade level and then 54 in another grade level. That's a pretty significant drop in cohort. So that's why you're seeing long-term that feeder number going into the secondary schools. It's impacting our elementary now, but it will impact secondary. But looking at that birth rate, that's a pretty significant decline in, just birth rate that's being tracked from the county from 2017 to 2024, from 188 to 124. That's pretty significant. And we are seeing that drop in kindergarten.
Our families today, if they have 3, it's considered a pretty big family.
Yeah.
And that would have been a very small family just even 15 years ago, probably.
Yeah, and it's something that it's not just us. I think, when you look at the birth rates across the country, this is a trend, across the country with a public ed and enrolling students. So while we're not as impacted by, homeschool, a charter school, those types of things, we could be in the future. That's something to consider. But at this time, I don't see that we're having a huge impact with students withdrawing for those purposes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? We will move on to Laura. It's not policy today, it's something else.
Lucky for you. So I have an LEA-specific license and endorsement request. These typically come to you in the fall. However, although we're talking about lower enrollment numbers, we did have a spike at Montezuma Creek Elementary in kindergarten that we wanted to give some additional teaching support towards, so we did hire a teacher mid-year. So that's the license you are seeing there to help us get a temporary license for that educator while we work on the professional license. And then we also had a couple of changes in teacher schedules that resulted in them needing some additional endorsements for courses they were assigned for the second half of the year.
Okay, and that is an action item, that's something
Yes.
we need to approve
Mhm.
today. Okay, any questions from anyone else related?
The other two, they're just changing?
So there's endorsements. So one
Okay.
of them, we changed who the reading teacher was at Monticello High School mid-year, so we needed to get her that temporary endorsement while she
Okay.
works on it. And then the other one, we actually requested an endorsement in the fall for that educator, but the course name was incorrect, so the endorsement you approved was not the one we actually needed. So when we made that change, we have to
Go
adjust the endorsement, yeah.
Okay. So the one repeat, the one change, and then a
Uh-huh.
new, okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacob Swanson now.
All right, if you just want to pull up that progress report there. And then once that pulls up, just go to slide 3, and we can really quickly look at, just so it's a little easier to visualize. We've started doing some of the pre-punch stuff. The building is getting really, really close to completion at this point, the building portion of it. If you look at the wing on the far left there, they've started doing what's called the pre-punch there, where the contractor is going through and looking at some of the things that need some touch-up work and everything like that. And so he started the work there on that far left wing and a little bit in the corridors. That's going to continue on, and then sometime in March, they're going to have their official punch where the architects are going to come. Steve will be heavily involved with that too, and they'll just go through and they'll put up some painter's tape on the areas that need a little bit of a touch-up or some repair work done. And again, that happens sometime in the first couple of weeks of March, most likely, if we're remaining on the schedule that we're currently on. So that's really, really exciting. And then if we go on to slide 4 there, if you want to just play that video. And I can explain some of the things that have gone on while you're watching that video, and you can just mute that. So the exterior metal siding is continuing to go. You can see most of it is there already done in the front of the building. You can still see a few spots where it needs to be done on the sides of the buildings and whatnot. The sign has been put up, as you might have seen, on the very front of the building, and that's looking great. There's one repair that needs to be done, and I think that's going to happen sometime this week. The vestibule at the front is being installed and is mostly complete at this stage. The ceiling grids are being installed. Site work is ongoing. Rock is being placed at the north of the building, and you can see that as it gets onto the north side of the building there. Some of the rock work being put in there with the landscaping. They will continue on the site work throughout the spring, which will include some more of the landscaping, the xeriscaping. The flooring is nearing completion at this stage. They have a few more spots in the main corridor that need to have the flooring work put in, but other than that, it's mostly complete at this stage, other than those spots and the cafeteria as well. We have started a pre-punch list again, the actual punch list beginning in March. We have finalized our furniture needs. We've sat down with the administration over at the school there, decided what furniture that we need to bring over to the new school, and that gives us an idea of what furniture that we need to buy for the new school. And we've sat down with, a furniture representative to help us through that process. And so in the next little while here, we should know what our furniture estimates are going to be looking like. And we've already gotten a pre-approval for what the budget will look like, and hopefully we won't have any issue, I don't believe, staying within that budget. We've also set up an art committee as well. There's a few extra people that I'm still trying to get in contact with to make sure that they're able to go, but we mostly have an art committee set up for a selection of artists for some art pieces in that main lobby, and I believe Nope, not on this one. But if you ever need to take a look at it, and maybe we should plan at some point in time having a little walkthrough again of the elementary school now that it's getting close to completion. But there in the main lobby area, there's going to be 4 original art pieces that we're going to have an artist be selected by that art committee. And we're planning on meeting this Friday to review some of the ideas from some of the artists that have submitted their names as people that want to be taken into consideration.
So are the artists submitting the ideas of what will be on the picture?
Right, and we've given them some direction a little bit. We want to give them some creative leeway with all of it, but we have given them some direction. As all of you may know, as you've walked through the building, there is sort of a nature and landscape theme to the building. There's a lot of naturistic themes that go throughout the building, and some of the artwork that will be done through the contractor is also leans very towards the nature of San Juan County and specifically Blanding. And so we've kind of said that we're most likely looking for some naturistic pieces, or at least some naturistic elements in those pieces. But to the extent possible, we do want to leave a lot of the creativity to the artists. And we've created a rubric for our art committee to kind of work through. And one of the things on there is we labeled it as the wow factor, to kind of give them a little bit more subjective, that's a picture, I like that picture, that's a piece of art that I like. And this is coming from a layperson, so forgive me when I'm talking about art here because I'm a little bit out of my element. But we've created these rubrics to help the art committee with their selection process. And in that we do mention, there is a nature theme to the building, and to the extent possible, we would like to see some nature themes in the art pieces as well.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you advertised to that call for artists?
Yeah, so I set up an advertisement in the San Juan Record, as well as on our website, and I had that published on the Record for, I believe, 4 to 6 consecutive weeks. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then a couple other people just heard through word of mouth, and so I reached out to some of those artists as well that were given to me word of mouth. And we had several very, very talented artists that have gotten back with me. And I won't announce those publicly but if you're wondering who some of those artists are, I can certainly let you know. And I'm really excited about some of the work, some of the ideas that have already been presented to me from those artists. So
That's exciting.
You said there's 4 panels, right? And that's on the north and the south side. And I think we had a question on the last walkthrough, what was going to happen on the east or on the west side, because there was that big.
Sure. So
part
if
of
you
it,
walk
too.
in there, there's actually 6 places that there could be art pieces.
Right.
And so like you said, there'll be art pieces on the east and west side, and then where it goes through the main corridor, those are going to be left blank for now. We don't have any ideas for those at the immediate, but with the foreseeable future. But it might be something that we leave up to the school to decide. And I'll work with the superintendent, and ultimately those can also be left blank. I don't think it would make it look bad or abnormal. And with our other elementary schools, we did 4 art pieces as well, I believe. And so we kept with that theme and decided on 4. And that's something that we could also pose the artists if they want to present 6, up to 6. Hypothetically they could. But
Okay, and I think that was the question that we had then too, whether if we wanted to go with 4 or 6 as well. So.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions with Blanding Elementary School? All right. Awesome. I guess I can just move right in, if that's all right, President, to capital follow-ups here. And first starting off with Montezuma Elementary, and you can pull up those pictures if you want to there. So these pictures were actually taken by Trihurst, by Hans Hurst over there. Now that we're nearing completion, he needed to get some photos for himself anyway, and he was kind enough to share those with me. And you can just pull those up if you want to go through one at a time. They kind of speak for themselves, and I know a lot of the board members were able to do a walkthrough of the building during the January board meeting, and as you can see, it's really moving along there. We've started our official punch list items at this school. We're waiting on a window still for the main office. If you look at, I believe, picture 3 on here. Sorry about that, Jake, making you go back all the way. But picture 3, you'll see there's still the board cut out over that one. One more, I believe. Oh, nope, still not. If you go out there, it's the one labeled Time Photo 2026. Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, there at the bottom. And then I don't know which one of those it is, so just click on, yep, that one. Sorry, it's in a different order on mine here, but so you'll still see that there's a board window there. It was just accidentally delivered in the wrong size, and so they're just waiting on the right size to come through, but they're aware of that, and so after that's done, we'll be pretty near completion with that. Other than that, the bulk of the work is completed, and we're just working on those punch items to get completed. And then going on to San Juan High School. As he's pulling those up, I can just talk about some of the things there. As you can see from the front of the building, they're making a lot of progress. Roofing and exterior masonry are underway in the vestibule area there in the front of the building. The door frames on the inside are installed. The outside framing is nearly completed at this point, and the punch list for this building currently is scheduled for April 7th, with final completion scheduled for April 21st. You know, that's always subject to certain changes, but they are making good progress right now, as you can see on the pictures in there. They've started the framework on there to in the vestibule and the office areas, as well as the nurses station and the conference room. So we're making really good progress there as well. And then just real briefly, and this is the band room areas there. They've done a lot of the painting work, and the ceiling tiles are all put in at this stage too. And we're going to be replacing the carpet within the next few weeks in those two rooms as well. And then talking about the design plans that we have going for Monticello High School and Albert R. Lyman. The bid documents at this stage are ready to go. They'll be posted on the UP3 website tomorrow. And we'll start beginning to accept bids, and then we'll present those bids to you at next board meeting for selection for doing those. And, you know, they'll bring you some alternatives as well that you, as the board, can decide which route that we want to go with a couple of those schools and a couple of those ideas. But that being said, we should have that ready to go for you by next board meeting with contractors lined up for us to select. All right, any questions on any of those projects?
Just a quick one on San Juan. So I noticed they
Yeah.
took down, those S things or whatever they are, some of them in the
Like
front.
the masonry blocks?
Yeah, and then some of the brick. How much, when they get all finished, will it look more like the original building, or will it have a very different look?
We tried to the extent possible, get brick and masonry that matches the old school. In some situations, it's not possible to get exactly the same match, but I feel like we did a pretty good job at getting
You're trying,
pretty
okay.
close to making it look like the original front of the building. So,
Very good, thank you.
yep, of course.
Did you say when Montezuma will be moving in, or when their final date was?
Yeah, just as soon as they get done with the punch list items, I would guess probably in maybe not even the next month. Yeah, it should be really any day now. For just when they get those final punch items.
So they're pretty excited there that they're gonna get, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Looks good.
Okay. I am the next presenter of the Day on the Hill, so I'll let Jacob kind of share with me a little bit on that too. But this is is it the third or the fourth year that I've gone to this? Anyway, I've gone to the Day on the Hill a few times. And I've also been involved a little bit in the Joint Legislative Committee, and the Delegate Assembly, and the different goals that we discuss, related to working with the legislature. And I've seen a real shift, I feel like, from in the past where we're trying to convince them, we're trying to get them to hear us, to where we actually feel like we're collaborating with them, they're understanding where we're coming from, they're still bringing bills, a little bit more than we would like, but at least they're hearing us, as opposed to, it felt like initially a lot of butting heads and just going, we're afraid to say anything because they'll just do it to spite us. And I think there's a much better collaborative relationship. Obviously, there's still bills that sometimes happen that we're like, yeah, that's not very helpful for us. But I would also like to say that Superintendent Fitzgerald does a great job advocating for our district. And she wasn't able to be there that particular time, but I run into people all the time that say, yes, we know, Christy has told us this is what we need to do. And so I want you as district employees and the rest of the board to know that we have great leadership in Christy, making sure that they know what we need. And we also have great representatives in our community and leaders. You know, Lori Mon was up there the same day that we were, and she was also advocating for things that Christy had told her as well. So we just have a lot of good people in our community that are making sure that we are here, we are here, we are here, that we're heard. Because we might be a tiny little way out of the way, I mean, large county, but small in numbers, and it's good to know that we have good representation. Logan took time to meet with us. We had a good visit. He even told us about an artist that he knows that might be interested in submitting for this. So it just felt very productive. And I was also able to attend the ICE protest accidentally when I went to meet my son. But it's great that we live in a state and a nation where people can share their express, you know, what we need, and Jacob as well was good at making sure that we were heard. So
Yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity. It was my first day up there, obviously, for Day on the Hill, and I guess a history on my life. I did a legislative internship when I was in college there for the representative for what's now District 69, and so, you know, it was great being back up on the Hill and seeing it from a different lens, I guess, and you know, like I said, and like Nan pointed out, I did appreciate that, you know, it didn't always result in a change of the legislation from the legislators, but there were several of the legislators that presented bills that were, for maybe one reason or another, worrisome to several of the school districts in the JLC, that a lot of them came and spoke and answered questions, and they definitely heard us out, and that was something that I really appreciated. I had the opportunity afterward to attend the Education Committee just for the House of Representatives to hear the bills that were before the committee, and, you know, it was a good opportunity to have representation from San Juan School District, and again, we're so thankful for the good representative for District 69, Logan Monson, for taking his time out to meet with us. And, you know, we were able to have a good conversation with him as well. And yeah, I really appreciated being able to go and speak out on behalf of San Juan School District. So.
And I'm just going to speak really briefly on this number 12 board training and development, because Colleen and I do have a plan to actually work together on an accountability piece. My thought is I want to create a bingo board where we list some of the things that we ought to be doing as board members. And I really appreciate what Christy just said, because obviously I don't have it built yet, but one of those things could be attending a chapter meeting, you know, going to school community council, visiting one of the schools that's in the area that you are voted in, you know, several different ideas. So if any of you have suggestions of things that we should be aware of to be accountable for, and then I'm probably going to work with Eva to come up with some kind of a reward system so that when we get a bingo or a blackout or whatever, we have something fun to recognize that. So that's kind of what I was thinking. What do you think?
I think that's actually a really good idea. And I think for me, it came from White Horse's Parent Climate Conference.
Yes.
And I'm always going to advocate for that, because that's something that really, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing my job or doing my due diligence as much as I should be. But that was one thing that opened my eyes to a lot of that. And I know theirs was a punch card, I think, though, for sports and things like that. So I actually think it's a good idea. Definitely will hold us accountable. If I get chocolate in the end, perfect. You know? Or something of that nature. That was my chocolate would be my
suggestion. So like I said, any board members, if you have suggestions of things that you think we should be working on or whatever, email me, text me, whatever. But some of it'll come from, you know, just those guidelines that we've gotten from the USBA, and then also from our own board handbook. So things that we should be doing as board members.
It'd be fun to open up to administration too, because I know not just school boards ask at chapter meetings. I mean, the teachers, principals, some admins always ask for too. But I'm sure they get sick of seeing and hearing from me sometimes too. So a little voice would be something, and to open it up to them as well. I mean, I don't know, Jacob, have you been to a chapter meeting, and
I
is
haven't.
that an experience, that's something that you would?
We have plans to, for going to one in early March though, so,
Oh,
yeah.
See, and that would be a fun experience,
Yeah,
just to learn
absolutely.
overall, and that extend to everybody else as well. So I think it'd be a great collaboration and accountability.
Absolutely.
For all of us, so
Okay.
we can all do better.
Well, and it's things that we're already doing. Sometimes you make a checklist but sometimes I will go, okay, I did this today, check. I
Yeah.
did this today, check. Write it that way instead of the other way. So, yeah. I think we are already doing a lot of things, but it helps to remind ourselves what we actually are doing. So, at this time, I think dinner is coming, and we have reached the end of that portion of our agenda, so.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have dinner until about 5:30, so we probably
Okay.
could go to close.
Yeah, let's go into closed, if it's still gonna be a minute before dinner's here. So, I will need a motion, to go into closed, and it's related to personnel.
I will make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss personnel.
I'll second.
Exemplary students, so we'll start with, the San Juan Sweet Job Award for Katie Lynn Lyman, so come on up. Okay. I know, it's always a little bit in the way. We will get your name. on that eventually. Okay. Katie Lynn, as our previous assistant principal at Landing Elementary School, Katie Lynn jumped right in and did some amazing things. She did such a great job organizing our back to school night, going out of her way to make parents feel welcome. If something needed to be done, she makes it happen. She did a fantastic job with juggling all that needed to be done. She is a huge asset for our school and district, and it looks like to her family too. We're grateful to have her here, and that's from the Planning Elementary. And then Katie Lynn was an integral part of the leadership team at ARL. She is solution-oriented and brings a versatile background to the table. She is organized, knowledgeable, and she helps to create buy-in amongst faculty. She goes above and beyond for her students and is willing to provide support for students in person and online. And that was from ARL, the ARL team. Katie Lynn has been an amazing addition to the special education team. She supports teachers and systems in each of our schools and has helped implement new monitoring programs. We appreciate her expertise and willingness to help. And she was nominated in that situation by the district office team, and I'm sure there are many others that aren't on this list that would love to recognize that Katie Lynn is awesome at whatever she does, which I have heard from her husband before. She sees something and she's like, I think that's a challenge I can take on. So we really appreciate that you are part of the district team and you do make a difference wherever you choose to serve. And thank you for what you do for special ed right now. Yeah, we're not just saying that, you know.
Good job, Caitlin.
Thank you. And she was one of my students when I did my student teaching. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I remember. And she even remembers some of the things that I did right, which is so good. All the things I did wrong. All right, all of us on the board are excited about this one, so why don't you all come up and join us in recognizing. We're going to even let Gina participate in the fun. So, go ahead, we're going to all
The U.S. Presidential Scholar in Career and Technical Education is one of the nation's highest honors. Students who are nominated for this award are chosen based on proficiency in their career pathways, along with demonstrated ingenuity, creativity, and employability skills. These prestigious awards highlight outstanding students in critical economic sectors, and this year, you are in one of those sectors in healthcare, STEM, and advanced manufacturing. Wachegi was nominated by Kim D., her HOSA advisor and teacher at Whitehorse High School. She is a standout scholar and is one of the 5 Utah presidential scholars who will be sent, their nomination will be sent to Washington, D.C. This is the first San Juan School District Utah scholar that I have known of since I've been in the district, so that it's a very big accomplishment. You should be very proud. Her leadership is equally impressive as all of the activities and her high GPA that she has, but she currently serves as the HOSA president, student body president, and Raider Studio Art Club president. Beyond the classroom, she has developed durable skills of employability through a commitment to punctuality, respectful communication, and maturity in conflict resolution that makes her a role model for her peers. She has a career goal of becoming either an electronics engineer or trace evidence technician. Love both of those. And she embodies the ingenuity and technical excellence that drive our nation's economic growth. So, congratulations.
Scoot together. Oh, I guess we're getting. You want the whole team around? Sorry, you're in space in here. I'm gonna take them like sideways and up and down. Vertical, I guess that's the word. Technically. Perfect. Do you want them to just like right away?
Do you need that to take a Yep.
Going at the same time? Okay, I'm gonna take more. Okay. Because you're probably looking at her and that's okay. Step back just a little bit. Not you. Oh, your jacket. Down.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. And before that starts, I'll just go ahead and read this. The purpose of a San Juan School District Board of Education meeting is for the board to conduct its business in public as provided by law. The San Juan School District Board of Education values and welcomes public comment. So time is allotted in our public meetings for such. However, to maximize its benefit, there must be structure and consistency to the practice. With that in mind, please know that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but complaints about school personnel or other persons will not be allowed. Individuals expressing comments should not expect an immediate response from the board. Please understand that the public comment period is not a debate, an interactive question and answer session, or a dispute resolution forum, but is an opportunity for you to express your comments, suggestions, and concerns to the board for our information and consideration. A member of the district staff will respond to patrons who request a follow-up meeting or information. And at this time,
Can you pass that? I want to see that. I want to take a picture. Can you pass that?
one thing at a time. I know, sorry. I got a little bit ahead of you. Okay. So, we have a comment from Lehigh Lacey.
Thank you.
And you can request extra time if you need it.
No, this is good.
Okay.
It's not really a public comment. We just want to thank the San Juan School District with their help when the bus caught on fire for those kids from Colorado. And so happens an empty bus of San Juan counties was right there. We loaded those kids up on that bus and transported them. So we have a certificate, a citizen service award that we want to present to you guys with a matching pin. And just want to thank you guys for your dedication to our students and our kids, not even from our area, but for all kids. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
we want to request.
Yes.
We'll have to let Conan Benally know he's our.
Sure.
At the very least, we should let Conan know.
Yeah. Do you want to get in the? I think you should. As long as you're
Okay, we can, you guys, we're gonna do this way.
Yeah, send it in.
We're gonna turn the spots and go behind that desk. Perfect. And then, perfect. We're gonna angle on this way. Come forward. Yeah. I mean, I'm centering on these flags. If that helps mentally center you, that's what I'm trying to do. We're at an angle. Step back.
Step back.
Because we have like 3 Jacobs in our building, so it's, we do have 30, but I don't know which one I'm talking to.
Sit down.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I've been called worse. So.
Okay, so we have covered everything in our agenda, and now we move on to the consent agenda. So, just need any discussion related to the consent agenda before we make a motion on that? Okay, so it's open for a motion to approve this consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And now we move on to action items. Any discussion related to the 2024-25 School Land Trust final school reports? I think we did a good job talking about that, so.
That needs to be approved, right? And then turned back, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-25 School Land Trust final school reports.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. The LEA-specific licenses and endorsements. So we just need to make a motion to approve those. as presented.
I will motion to approve, I'm sorry, what was it again?
Yeah, it's just approve the LEA specific.
LEA specific, I'm trying to look for it here. Oh, there we go, okay. LEA specific licenses and endorsements as proposed.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That also passes unanimously. And the next one, again, we have suggested wording for that for you, so that you know what you're saying. Under recommended actions.
I'll make a motion, then we can have a discussion after a motion, correct? So I'll motion to move to approve the Indian Policy and Procedures 2026, 2027 with the proposed language from Dr. Begay, ending with "we acknowledge these terms in their historical place," and adding Tis Nas Pas chapter as one of our chapter houses that we will collaborate with.
I'll second.
Okay, and you wanted to have a little bit of
Yeah, I was just
discussion
gonna make
related
sure,
to
so
that.
does that include like where we will use the term Native American rather than?
It's that paragraph that was
Or you're
listed.
just gonna add that
We're
paragraph?
just going to add that paragraph at the beginning.
Okay, so that's,
And we'll go back and try to find, I looked and I couldn't find the one you're referring to, so we're going to go back to the Z drive and see if maybe it's in there. It wasn't attached to the board agenda that way, so if we find that, we can also bring that back. There's not a reason you couldn't approve changes in
Yes.
that nature, but if we can find that work that was done previously that you referred to, then we'll bring that back.
So we can approve it as is, adding the paragraph that adds our awareness of the language, and then also adding Tis Nas Pas chapter under the chapters that we work with, so. And that's what you proposed, so, and we had a second, so, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, that also passes unanimously. And then the board meeting schedule.
I motion to approve the proposed schedule for 2026-27 Board of Education meeting schedule.
I'll second.
Any discussion related to that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And again, if we need to make changes in the future, we can, but it's good to have that set. Okay, strategic planning.
I move to approve the proposed strategic plan pillars, description, and initiatives.
I will second it.
Do we have any discussion related to that?
I do not.
Yeah, I think we did a good job of that.
I
too.
think so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that also is approved unanimously. Okay, I'll turn the time over to you.
All right, our information items. Our next board meeting will be March 10th at the district office and broadcast virtually. The SJSD Family Literacy Night will be held at Spenedeskai Elementary School February 11th from 5 to 6:30. Is that time correct, Paul, or has that changed?
I think it's running 5:30 to 7:30, so I'll update that.
Okay. And then we do have President's Day with no school on February 16th.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.